All right. So I have legendary coach Del Harris, now Hall of Famer legendary coach Del Harris on the podcast. Congrats, Coach. Really, really happy for you.
And I'm vice president of the Legends in in Frisco, Texas.
There's legends everywhere.
The development league team of the Mavericks.
Yeah, we've known each other a long time, right?
Yes, sir.
I probably met you in the early 80s, I think, going back to, I don't know where you were coaching then in the early 80s.
Well, the Rockets.
At the Rockets, yeah.
I was with the Rockets from 76 to 83.
Right.
I was the head coach 79 to 83.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. That's when I broke in. Was like 82.
Yeah.
So tell me, Coach, what does this honor mean to you? In a few words, but let me know.
Well, everything's cliche. I mean, there's nobody that said, "Oh, it's nothing." But it's probably a little more special for me than it would be for a lot of people. Which is my camera here, anyway?
Either one. Probably that one.
Okay. Well, I thought you and camera.
See, that's a true pro. Worrying where the camera is.
But anyway, I was born in Indiana. So at that time, anybody that's seen the movie Hoosiers will have some kind of an indication of what it was like to be in high school in the early 1950s. I was at the game upon which the story is based, and that's all. The only thing true about that story is that a small town in Indiana won in the open qualification where there were about 700 schools.
Yeah.
And when you have 700 schools in a state that now has 300 and some, you got a lot of little towns that have their schools.
Yeah.
And so Milan, they call it Hickory in the movie, and they call it Milan in Italy, but in Indiana it's Milan. And they won in 1954, the movie's 52. And that's true, that part of it.
Yeah.
But the preceding part isn't. They didn't have some old washed-up coach. They had a 25-year-old coach, Marvin Wood. And the last shot, that is right.
Yeah.
It wasn't Jimmy. It was Bobby Plump who made that shot. But that's the way the game was played, and it was played against a perennially top drawer large school. It was actually Muncie Central.
Yeah.
It said South Bend Central. I don't know. Hey, it's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah.
But it's the story that took place in some small town around Indiana. It's a composite of small town Indiana basketball.
Which is where you grew up.
And
that's how you learn hoops.
And I coached it.
Yeah,
in
amazing.
The 60s, early 60s.
Yeah.
And the biggest town I ever lived or coached in those days was 2,000.
Yeah.
Now town I actually grew up in has 35,000 now. But
wow, amazing.
Anyway.
Well, come a long way from those little towns in Indiana, right? Yeah.
But basketball was a way of life.
Yeah.
You were,
sure.
In Indiana then, they didn't have any football teams other than Notre Dame, but and Purdue occasionally. But the Colts are in there now, and when the schools got large, then everybody played football.
Right.
But the schools that I went to, we were a small town, but we did have a football team. But the teams that I coached in high school, I coached 3 high school teams in, and none of them had a football. None of them had an 11-man. I had one team had a 8-man.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't have enough.
They didn't have enough
players.
kids. That's funny. Oh my goodness. Well, I think it's pretty much a well-known fact, but I didn't actually know this. I didn't know that you coached Joe Bryant and Kobe Bryant, right?
I did.
Obviously at 2 different times. But you coached Joe in Houston, or
yes? I was Joe's last coach and Kobe's first coach.
Yes, yeah. How crazy is that story?
Yeah, and Kobe was 4 the first time I saw him.
That's crazy.
And I've
Yeah.
had broadcasters say, "Well, what did you think of Kobe when you first saw him?" Well, I thought he was really cute.
He was
What?
4. Couldn't
4
read
years
yet.
old,
Yeah. Amazing. Wow. And, of course, I worked for the Lakers when you were there, and, you coached Magic, Shaq, Kobe. I mean, look at this lineage of players that you coached.
I
It's
was
incredible.
I was Kobe's first and Magic's last.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was in Space Jam. That's the only thing the young kids know about me today.
Right.
You know?
That's too bad. If that's true, I
Oh,
I
it
hope
is
not.
true.
Just tell me, last thing, Coach. You have 3 presenters. So Nancy Lieberman told us a wonderful story about how she bonded with you and when she met you in Dallas, right? Then you also have Sidney Moncrief. Tell me a little bit about Sidney.
Sidney was one of the wonderful players that I was fortunate enough to coach. I was just talking to Bill Walton. He was saying, nobody knows it, but he says, I say it all the time. You coached more great players than any of the other coaches. And in my speech tonight, or tomorrow night, I'll mention that I coached a lot of great players.
Yeah.
But Hall of Fame players, I think 15. But
You coached 15 Hall of Fame
yeah,
players.
but they were all, most of them were already Hall of Famers before I ever got there.
Yeah.
I caught them at the tail end. I was the last coach
Yeah.
for Magic. I was the last coach for Calvin Murphy, for Jack Sikma, for several of them.
Yeah.
Elvin Hayes played one more year. Sid played one more year. But anyway.
Yeah, those Bucks teams were amazing when you were coaching.
They definitely were. And I, and of course, in LA, I had Vlade and Shaq and Kobe. And
Yeah.
I had three go in a couple of years ago with
Yep.
Sidney and Jack Sikma, who were on the same team,
Yeah.
and Vlade. So anyway, but I learned from them. They helped me
Yeah.
a lot. I didn't necessarily help them.
Nah, it felt me so humble.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true.
And then tell me about John Calipari. Where's the connection with him?
Well, John and I first met when we were doing basketball clinics in Spain back in the early 90s. And since that time, we became friends, and we have done basketball on 4 continents together. And the last of which, when they asked him to coach the Dominican Republic national team in the pre-Olympics in 2011, 2012, he said he would do it if they would hire me with him. And of course they did, and it was great. And we've been to each other's house a lot of. Particularly, I've been to his house. A lot. I've watched these kids grow up.
Yeah.
So we're just good friends. I
Yeah.
try to watch all these games.
So it's going to be a great moment for you. You're going to have some great support up there.
It is.
Congratulations, Coach. Thank you for always being so kind with me and letting me get into the huddles every once in a while, and kind of getting into your inner sanctum. I know it wasn't maybe that welcome most of the time, but you're always so great to work with. So thank you so much for that.
You didn't hear me say any nasties in it anyway. So. But
thank you.
They told me not to talk too much because I got to save my throat.
Of course.
I've had,
no, and you got to get that speech.
You can't shut me up. So you better just cut this thing. I know.
Well, thanks so much, Coach. Congratulations.